How's it going? Welcome to another edition of the Build Series live here in New York City. I'm Kevin Kenny, and our guest today has pretty much succeeded at everything she's ever put her mind to in life, taking the world of Broadway by storm. And this Monday, July 30th, she will play at the Apollo Theater. Please, let's give a warm welcome to our guest today, Shoshana Bean.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
You know, I play a little game with myself sometimes when we have guests on the show, and I try to wonder, how did they spend their day before they got here? You know, and depending on how the interview goes, sometimes I think I have a pretty good idea of what they were doing before they got here. But you left nothing to the imagination. I was on your Instagram today. You were like vibing out at Duane Reade to some 90s jams.
Listen, I'm a sucker for 90s jams.
As am I.
And I don't know when it started. Like, well, not when I started loving 90s jams, but it started being like a 90s jam of the day thing. And so today I lucked out at Duane Reade with a Brandy jam, and I was like, great, I don't even have to like make an effort today. Here's the 90s jam of the day.
I need to go to that Duane Reade because I live here too, and my Duane Reade plays like Daniel Powder the whole time.
Absolutely
It's just
not.
a buzzkill.
This one's on the east side, like randomly 35th and, oh my God, and 35th and 3rd. So that's the one.
That's the lit Duane Reade.
Yeah.
That's where it's going down. What was it? It was a Brandy song. Do you remember what song it was? I was trying to make it out.
It was, whenever I'm down, I call on you, my friend. I have to get to the chorus. Help me out if anyone knows it. In your time of need, so we're gonna sing through the whole song.
We're gonna sing the whole
something about friends. It's a friend song. It's
yes.
Like, you're my friend, I call on you.
The point being, it's a 90s jam.
I'm embarrassing myself. God, yes, it's a 90s jam.
And I love 90s jams, and I'd love to start there because so much of your inspiration, I mean, you take from so many different decades, which makes you such an interesting artist, but one of them being Mariah Carey, who is like the 90s pop icon.
Yeah, one of them, yes.
So what was it about Mariah that drew you to her so early on?
I think up until that point, there just hadn't been a vocalist like that. There hadn't been someone, I don't want to say with that range, because obviously we had Minnie Riperton, but someone who came out so soulfully and pop, someone who had a range like that. Also, her songs were just, it was just hit after hit after hit. But I think it was the timing, and I remember like listening to her records with a friend from middle school, and my friend was like, this is what I'm gonna do, like with my life. I'm going to be Mariah Carey. And I was like, if you're gonna be Mariah Carey, I'm gonna, like, it's an option for us to just say we wanna be a pop star, then that's what I'm doing too. So it just was kind of like a turning point for me with her and her early records of like, oh, I can maybe do this. So yeah, she's in there.
And do you cite Mariah? Because I know J-Lo is another inspiration for you. You know, these sort of, no, but they don't, this yes. love of pop music, wanting to be, you know, a pop singer is something that's very, you know, true to you.
Yeah, I would say Mariah, I would say Whitney is huge, Aretha. J-Lo less for the music and more of like, her and Frank Sinatra to me are like these dominating forces who just, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that. And they do. They just make a place for themselves where ordinarily people would be like, there's not really a place for you here. And they were like, watch me, there absolutely is. So it's really their tenacity and ferociousness with their approach to their work that I'm so inspired by when it comes to J-Lo. And
that's really interesting. I've never heard, you know, Frank and J-Lo put together like that. No, but I would love to hear that song. But so that's interesting. You were attracted to her sort of, could you almost say like her entrepreneurial side?
Definitely. Okay. I mean, I think I was attracted to her in the beginning like we all were, because she's stunning. You know what I mean? That was the initial thing. And then as her career just sort of kept expanding and she kept like, you know, tackling more and more mediums and as a businesswoman, and she kept blowing my mind. And yeah.
Yeah, and to this day.
Yeah.
Getting back to middle school, there's a story that I'm gonna probably embarrass you to tell right now, but I love.
How will you know that middle school?
I've done my middle school research.
You're good.
But
oh God.
You were like had a monopoly on the national anthems in like grade school, and you were like numero uno, #1 singer at your grade school. So you just figured when you got to middle school, oh, this is gonna be a walk in the park.
Sure.
I'm gonna be #1 the whole way.
Sure.
But there was a competitor there, I understand. There was somebody else that wanted to do the exact same thing at your middle school.
This is the same girl I'm talking about. The one who was
the
like—
Mariah girl?
Yes. So you can imagine the competition kicked in. I never really played sports, so like this was a full throwdown. And I remember, I don't think we really actually sang the anthem in grade school, but I definitely was the singer of grade school. So when you get to middle school, it's a bigger, pond of fish. And you know, I think I just had been resting on my laurels. And then here comes this girl who I will not name her, but I remember another mutual friend of ours was like, I mean, her anthem was like better. And I was like, well, that'll be the last time that happens. You know what I mean? So yeah, I say these stories in jest, but like I really do credit those moments with like what just sort of like, they were turning points for me in taking my craft seriously and sort of like creating a focus for which direction I was heading in. So,
I mean, it's crazy to say this, but do you think that's where the fire started?
No.
No. Was it before that or after that?
I think it was before that. And after that, I think there's fire starters all along the way. But I think in the beginning, I'm an only child. And if anyone's an only child, you know that like you are the star of your household. There's no competition for anything. And then, you know, I started getting involved in theater when I was young or dance class or whatever. And I was not the star. And that did not make sense to me. So I just kept thinking, I got to get better. I have to do more. I have to be different. I have to do something so that I can still, it's sick. I know.
Well, no. I relate to it on
Most
a very...
artists are very sick on some level. We're like, we need, love us. Do you know what I mean?
But I'm an only child too.
You are?
I am an only child too.
I liked you.
And I think that it's fascinating because it can manifest itself, that experience, in so many different ways. How do you think it was an advantage for you as an artist?
Oh, I say this to my friends who have only children or are thinking about maybe not having more than one. And I'm like, you know, the beautiful thing about being an only child is you are raised in an environment where you don't have to wait for things, or you don't understand, this sounds terrible, why the world doesn't revolve around you. And so that creates not an entitlement, but just like a determination to keep recreating this thing where you're like, no, I will have what I want because I'm used to getting that. So it does create problems in that you're like, why can't I have what I want? But at the same time, you're like, well, I'm just gonna keep going and figuring out and re-maneuvering and taking detours until I get to where I wanna go. So I think it creates a very goal-oriented and maybe stubborn and like spoiled in a good way.
Yeah, quite the appetite for life, I think.
Did you feel the same? Do you feel?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sort of checking off all the little
cool.
things on the list as you say them. Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. Now, eventually, of course, you graduate from middle school.
I did.
Spoiler
I made
alert,
it,
guys. Spoiler alert.
I made it.
And you start taking Broadway by storm.
Right after middle school.
Right after. It was like
direct path.
8th grade graduation. I think that's Saturday you were on Broadway.
National anthem, Hairspray.
We're skipping a few steps. But I wanted to talk to you about Wicked and how, you know, big that show is, and you were the star of that show. But the relationship that you had with that success is interesting because from what I understand, at first, it was a little bit of you pawning it off on the show itself, saying, you know what, they're cheering, they love it, but you know what, they love Wicked, they don't love me. Did it get to a point where you were eventually able to internalize that and sort of say, no, actually, they're cheering for me, this is me?
God, you're good. I don't know. I don't even know if I still can really own, like, and I just said to you, right? Only children, we're just like craving love and adoration and attention. But like, I don't even know if I still like really will own that. But I think I've at the time, I don't know that I ever fully received it and owned my own achievement or power or success or abilities. I think it was, I just didn't know my worth, and I think it was too much to actually like be like, I deserve to be here, and this is an amazing opportunity, and like, you know. But looking back, I've had to like really go in and do the work, and it's a weird thing that it's hard to acknowledge one's own success or achievements or challenges that you've overcome. So now I can look back, and it's a weird thing.
Yeah,
it's a really sensitive, weird thing. Yeah.
How do you measure fulfillment in an endeavor like that? Because if the fulfillment is like getting that love and getting that appreciation, that validation from the audience, but then here you are the star of the show on one of the biggest musicals on Broadway, and you can't accept that. So how do you, while you're in it, I know now retrospectively you can look back and that's amazing, but when you're in it, like how do you measure or gauge success or fulfillment?
I think that's like a moving target. So sometimes it's like, this will be successful if we sell out the show. You know, this will be successful. Well, it must be successful because I got the role. I always said I wanted to be a lead on Broadway. Well, you did that. You know, that didn't fill the well. You know, like I think it's really just a balance and being present and grateful. And I think I didn't have the skills back then to be 100% present and 100% grateful. And now I measure success or achievement by the people that I affect, whether that's inspiring them or literally assisting them in their career path, or saving a life or whatever it is that I can do by example or with my music or whatever. So that's sort of my measure now is like, what am I giving? What am I adding to the world?
Yeah, it's mighty noble of you.
It's more fulfilling than
it is,
a dollar
that's the
amount.
rarefied air that's very hard to get to, though, because you got to get through all these other steps of success to get to that and realize, oh, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, you have to kind of wade through the crap. And I've been lucky enough to speak to people who look like they have the dream career that I want, and have them be like, this car and this house and this Grammy and this amount of money, it's not filling the hole.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out what that is. And for me, that's just human connection. And for me, that's like, what is my purpose here? My purpose is to like fuel this place with love or creativity or more art. And as soon as I got that, it's just, it's easier to like at the end of the day be like, this was a good day.
Yeah.
Like I feel, whole regardless.
That's amazing.
That makes sense.
It's amazing. Yeah, no, that was beautiful. So I want to talk about your music. You've shared the stage with so many people, just to name drop a few: Ariana Grande, Michael Jackson. I read. What was the story there? Was that just like a big show, or did you work with Michael, or what was the deal there?
We did the 30th anniversary concert, the big one right before 9/11. Does anyone remember this? Oh my gosh. And it was kind of a fluke. I was in this the gospel choir, the Broadway gospel choir, which is called the Broadway Inspirational Voices. And when I moved to the city, there was this girl named Shayna Steele. There still is this wonderful woman who's a dear friend of mine.
Still exists.
Named Shayna Steele. She's an incredible artist. Check her out. Sings. Rings around most people. And Shayna I was kind of like Shayna's cleanup girl. So like if there was a role that got offered to Shayna and she couldn't do it, they were like, call Shoshana Bean. And same thing we originally did like the Jingle Ball or something, and they took a bunch of backup singers from the Broadway Inspirational Voices. Shayna couldn't do it, so I did, gratefully. And then when it came the year later for Michael's 30th anniversary, it was the same production team, same band and everything. And they're like, just call those same backup singers. That worked well. And so by proxy, I got to do it again. And again, something that happened when I was too young to appreciate. I mean, I appreciated it because I'm like, half the people I sang with are no longer here. Luther and Whitney and Michael and Ray Charles and I was present, but I just...
Is it not, well, you keep saying that you didn't appreciate it. Is it not appreciating it, but is it kind of the mentality of just on to the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing?
No, I was definitely there. I wasn't like, when is this over? I just was like...
But once you do achieve it, do you immediately start looking for the next thing, and maybe that?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So maybe that hinders a little bit of appreciating it.
100%.
Right.
But now, as the years have gone on and we've steadily lost each one of them, I just was like, what a blessing that I was in the same room to watch these people who are the best at their craft, like see it happen. Just the other day, I pulled out, because I went and saw the Whitney documentary, and I pulled out my rehearsal tapes because I just wanted to hear her voice, and I have the cassette tapes in my little recorder, and I just went back to that time and listened to our rehearsals, and Michael just knowing every nuance of his music and what he wanted. And now I'm like, what a gift.
Right.
Back then I was like, who can I get a picture with? And what's going on over there? What's Prince Michael Jackson doing? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's going on?
We had a music producer named Rico Love on the show recently, and he described working with Beyonce and just working with anybody of that stature. When you're in the room with them, they feel like the best idea you've ever heard of. And I thought that was an interesting way to sort of coin somebody like that, an icon. How would you describe like being that close to a Michael Jackson in his element, doing his art?
I remember even then, like what you saw in This Is It is what I lived for like 2 weeks. Like I just remember being like, he knows every, if a percussion moment was off, if a cowbell was off, like he just knew. I mean, obviously we all know his upbringing, so it's no accident that he was so diligent and such a perfectionist and just knew that stuff inside and out. But I remember being like, that's how to be a musician. That's how to be a leader. That's how, like, as a singer, especially coming up in theater, you really only pay attention to like your own accuracy and what's coming out of your mouth. And I remember learning there, like, oh, you kind of have to know everything that's going on. You are the leader, regardless of whether you have a music director or not. Michael would usurp the music director plenty of times and be like, that's not how that goes, So I just remember being like, that's the difference. Because that concert also had like a lot of the like pop stars of the moment, at the time. And I remember being like, oh, the difference is paramount between a legend and like a flash in the pan. Right. You could just see it from a mile away.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah, watching him was a masterclass.
Just amazing. I want to talk about this. Speaking of amazing, I want to talk about this body of work that came out, I believe, was it February this year?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, time's flying. But Spectrum is, of course, as you can see there, the name of this record. And it was inspired by kind of these big three, right? Aretha Franklin, Barbra Streisand, and of course, Frank Sinatra, we've always talked about already. I live in Hoboken right now. And so Frank's face is like everywhere.
Oh,
For those that don't know, Frank
was born there.
Born there. And he's like, there's a Frank Sinatra museum. It's like,
I still haven't gone.
Yeah, it's really wild.
Have you gone?
I've been there. Yeah, I used to live across the street from him. There was like a liquor store next door that I would
Naturally.
I'd visit, you know, I'd visit. But there's like, it's crazy. It's like Frank Sinatra universe in Hoboken. But so I have that context to Frank.
Yeah.
What does he mean to you?
Oh, I was raised on his music in my grandmother's house. And my grandmother not only was like a huge musical influence in that way for all the different sounds that were going on in her home, but she and I connected about music. We definitely, early on, it was very obvious that music affected us in a certain way, that we had a love and an appreciation for it, not just an ability for it, because she was a singer as well. But I just really believe that was like our purpose together, you know, in this life, was to just, you know, she ushered me into, and she's all over this record. And yeah, so that's where Frank comes in. I really do think that a part of me, because my grandfather, her husband, passed before, like when I was like still a baby, so I never really knew him. So I really think that part of me thought that was like like Frank was my grandfather. Yeah. He just was so present in my life. Yeah, and again, with the J-Lo factor of like,
yeah,
he's rolling. He's like, don't. The J-Lo factor of like, he just, you couldn't give him boundaries. Like,
no.
I'm going to be a movie star. I'm going to make another record. I'm going to, you know, threaten this life or whatever else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not somebody that likes to sort of like bash modern music and say, oh, everything was so much better back in the day. I think it's far too nostalgic for my taste. But there is definitely something I feel like different about Frank and different about Barbra and different about Aretha Franklin. So in your words, what has been lost? And not to say that music isn't as good today, but what has been lost throughout the years that maybe they had in your eyes that we're not seeing so much today?
I think the main thing is just like, this is a sensitive topic, so I'm going to choose my words wisely. I think I'll just go to communication. I think that I was just watching some Frank footage the other night, and I'm like, very few people tell a story or communicate a lyric in the way that Frank does, or that Barbra does, and the way that Aretha communicates music, you know, takes the time and the care with it. I would say authenticity, because there is a very exposed, vulnerable thing when you choose to like tell a story. You're sharing parts of yourself. And I watched Frank, as I'm watching this concert the other night, just like maneuver through each song and completely transform to communicate the story. So I think that's one of the big things. And they, of course, recorded in the studio live with the band. You know, there wasn't really pitch correct, and there wasn't, you know, oh, we'll just edit this together. Everything was like a moment. They captured a moment. And it was magic. Sometimes it was flawed, and you know that there aren't a lot of people making records that authentically and raw and organic these days. So I think that's, you know, I do have opinions about it, but I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong for time to move on and, you know, us to progress.
When you record music like that, it sounds like a moment in life, because we've all been somewhere in the world where a live band is taking place. I think sometimes, whether we can sort of like articulate it or not, if, you know, the beat was made in Atlanta and then the tracks were recorded in Miami, it's like, well, wait, like that doesn't sound like anything I've ever experienced, you know?
Right.
But when, you know, Frank and these old school recordings, it seems like a living, breathing moment.
Yeah.
But you touch on communication and the art of communicating through music, and I'm not asking you to give away your secrets here, but I have to ask you, because I have you here on the stage. When you do this thing when you sing, because there's plenty of amazing vocalists, and we know that, right? But you like are able to transcend, your vocals are able to transcend the lyrics in the song. Like, is it Rain on Me?
Make it rain.
Make it rain? The song Make It Rain. When you sing the word rain, it feels like how rain feels. I mean, no, truly though, for anyone who's heard the record, no, I'm not just saying.
You're trying to make me cry?
No, I'm just... I was listening to this morning, and I was like, how do you, not that I'm ever going to try to freaking do that, but like, how do you do that? Where do you take yourself mentally, at least, when you're performing?
I think Make It Rain is a really special song. Make It Rain is this artist named Foy Vance out of, I think, Ireland. And then Ed Sheeran covered it. It was like on one of the Sons of Anarchy, like one of the last episodes. And I was like, that song's coming with me. I think that song is so special. So I think that there's something about that song that just removes me from myself, gets me out of my own way, and I just sort of, let spirit take over, I guess. But I don't know. I just think, again, if you just sort of pile together all of my influences, you're talking about people who taught me to go to the lyric, to tell a story, and to get out of your own way and just let what your body does organically happen. And of course, there were hours and hours upon thousands of hours in the practice room to figure out how to manipulate this and make it do what I want it to do, to then get out of the way and just let whatever happens happen. So that is like the highest compliment. I'm so moved. Thank you.
No, truly, truly, truly. And I mean, it's funny you talk about, maneuvering this. It's an instrument. People forget that.
Yeah. And it sucks because it's in your body. So like if anything happens to your body, your instrument is like, you know what I mean?
That is true.
If you're like, your violin doesn't change really. I mean, I guess humidity affects the strings and whatever else, but like, it's still something you can somewhat control. This thing.
Yeah. A trumpet never gets a cold.
It's true.
We're going to turn it over to the audience in just a second, but I do want to talk just really quickly about your show at the Apollo.
Yes.
First off, congratulations.
Thank you.
If you're watching at home right now, this is going down Monday, July 30th in New York City, of course, up in Harlem.
Yeah.
Tickets are available right now at Ticketmaster.com. Also, VIP packages are available, and that gets you a signed CD, signed poster.
And a hug.
And a hug. I was going to, not to sell you short. No.
Big hug.
But of course, a meet and greet with the artist yourself. So that's very cool. So those are all available, just to keep in mind. And now let's turn it over to our amazing audience.
Oh, you're
hi.
ready.
Yes,
I thought she was like, don't ask me.
No.
Pop quiz.
Hi.
Hi, it's nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
I have a question for whenever you're doing a show for a long period of time. How do you maintain like your vocal energy and like the energy of the character? Like if it's a high energy character and you're doing the show for like a year, how do you keep the energy?
That's a good question. I think I learned by trial and error. No one pulled me aside and said, Shoshana, these are the things you should do. So number one, I try to do that for younger kids because I'm like, just so you know what you're about to get into. But I think, again, because the instrument is the body, it's just the better care you take of yourself, the better you're setting yourself up for success. So tons of rest, hydration, being diligent about your exercises and keeping your body like in cardio shape as well as like lithe and stretched out. So like Pilates and massage. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a part-time job to be able to go do your full-time job and deliver every night on stage. As far as like keeping it fresh and staying energized, that's the biggest challenge of being, in a consistent gig like that, is finding ways to keep it fresh and new. And a lot of that is staying present because live theater and people and everything is really different every night. You just have to stay present to that and not go on autopilot and be like, my body, because your body knows all the lines, all the notes, it knows where to be. You can literally make your grocery list and your body is still going through the motions. So I think it's just about really being present. And for me, I just used to create like new challenges for myself every night. I'm like, tonight I'm gonna just focus on, I don't know. Tonight I'm really just gonna focus on like not over singing. Tonight I'm just gonna like really chill into the music or whatever. Every night just giving myself a new challenge. But I think I'm lucky that like when I hit the stage, that's where I live. So I just kick in. Like it's never was like, oh, I gotta really get it up for today. I mean, sure, there were days like that, but like once you're out there, you just live it.
Great question. We have time for one more, and it'll come from over here.
Hi, my name is Crystal.
Hey,
so my question for you is, what was the moment where you realized like, oh, I'm making it, or like when was the moment that you realized like, wow, like pretty much you're making it. What was your breakthrough in the industry?
I don't even know if I've ever given myself that. I don't know that I've ever been like, this is it. I think I have little moments along the way where I'm like, this is cool. I think Hairspray opening was one of those. I think every album is one of those, like, because they're just literally a labor and a birth that I'm like, I did it. Like, here it is. I think the Apollo is a huge one. Like, to look back at a career that's enabled me to get to this place, thank you, Shane, is really, really special. This is I feel like I'm getting married. Like, that's what the Apollo feels like. Yeah, I think it's little checkpoints, but I don't think I ever kicked back and was like, oh yeah, we're coasting now. Because like you said, as an artist, it's just like, what's next? What can we do to top this? Or like what? Yeah, there's just this constant hunger.
Another great question. Thank you very much. All right, we are unfortunately out of time, but again, as I just mentioned, Monday is the date. Some tickets, not many, are still available, so if you want to go and check them out right now at Ticketmaster.com. Shoshana, thank you so much for stopping by.
You're so wonderful. This was a pleasure.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.